Addictions touch even the best Christian families right here in San Diego. This is Recovery Radio San Diego with Todd Cunningham of Pacific Hills Treatment Center and Recovery Options Network, along with John and Leslie Savage on KPRZ weekdays at 6:30. Stay with us for real-life stories, help from Christian experts, what works and what doesn't work, and local area resources for you and your family. Welcome to Recovery Radio San Diego.
Good evening. You're listening to 1210 AM KPRZ. This is a brand new radio program about addictions and self-destructive behaviors and God's gift of recovery. Welcome to Recovery Radio. My name is John Savage, and I am a grateful recovering addict. I'm one of 3 members of this new local radio ministry. Recovery Radio is a daily program that you're hearing every day, Monday through Friday at this time, and its sole mission is to assist addicts and their families by providing professional resources to get them the help they need so they can live a healthy and productive life. I believe that man's chief end is to glorify God and enjoy Him forever. And to do that, you must first surrender from your destructive behaviors, seek forgiveness, and acknowledge what Christ did for you on the cross. And that's where my freedom began. Others in this ministry is my wife, Leslie, who throughout my period of drug abuse, now my recovery, has stuck by me. And I'm very grateful to her for that. She's not available this afternoon, but she's with us in spirit, as they say. And our third partner in this program is Todd Cunningham. Todd, how are you today?
Doing great. Thank you.
Good. And your role with this program is through Recovery Options.
Correct. Recovery Options is a crisis line that's open to anybody who wants to call 7 days a week, and people are calling us when they find out that they have an addiction problem or somebody in their family has an addiction problem and they're not too sure what to do or where to get help. They'll call us. We'll kind of walk through some questions with them and do a free assessment if you call in, and we will help you find help.
My recovery journey began for me on May 1st, 2007. That was a little over 3 years ago when I finally surrendered and met God while locked up in a Tijuana jail cell. For 2 years leading up to that day, I had been abusing prescription medication, which quickly led to an OxyContin and cocaine habit. My turning point was my arrest in Tijuana, and when I completely surrendered and admitted that my life was completely unmanageable, and at the time I was powerless over my behaviors. So for the last 3 years, I've got a renewed purpose in my life, and this radio ministry is one of those purposes. I'm very thankful to be reunited with my family and right here today to talk about recovery. We have scholarship programs available because when we put this program together, when I began to realize that, first of all, nobody is talking about addictions on the radio. It's kind of like the hush-hush. It's the large elephant in the living room, as they say. We did some research and found that many churches have people struggling with addiction issues. And churches are a great place for recovery. I mean, I'm very thankful to my church for what they did, but there's that first aid part. And I believe that the first aid part is getting people immediate help to deal with their addictions. And so what we wanted to do was provide an opportunity for the local church and business community to get help for that person in their congregation or that person in business. So let's talk about the scholarships.
That's right, John. There's a treatment center called Pacific Hills Treatment Centers that's located in Southern California. They also have a facility in Texas. And what they've done during the holiday season, they have opted to provide a scholarship program for people that need treatment. It's a dollar-for-dollar match. So if anybody out there knows somebody that has a problem and is ready to get into treatment, or actually if you just want to give me a call, I'd be happy to talk to you and outline the program. Mm-hmm. I encourage that any of the churches in the area or employers in the area that if they have somebody within their reach, mm-hmm.
To
give me a call and let's see what we can do to help them.
So let's give that phone number out.
You would call 949-973-9140.
Mm-hmm. Well, this week we're talking about the intervention process. For the last 3 or 4 weeks, we've been discussing the addiction, the types of addictions that are out there, detox methods, just kind of the introductions to the entire concept of addiction and recovery, and right. God's gift of recovery. And with us this week is Keith and Shane Hankinson. They've got a very successful intervention practice, not located here in San Diego, but you guys are quick to the airport. Is that right, Shane?
Yeah, we're on a good day, we're 45 minutes from the airport. on a bad day, who knows?
I know.
This is Atlanta traffic we're talking about.
Well, I fly through there quite often. That is a one busy airport.
Yeah, sure is.
Well, listen, we appreciate you taking the time to talk to us this afternoon and for the next couple of days about the intervention process, because that's really the beginning point for a lot of people. I can tell you that my family tried to intervene when I was out using Shane, and I can tell you that there was frustration because it does take that third party to be able to come in and step in, and with some of the guidelines that you guys use and practice, it's very successful. But first, let's talk about your company, and then we'll kind of get back into some questions.
Speaking of, we're quick to the airport. My dad just got called the last couple hours, and so is on his way to an intervention as we speak. I'm going to talk him up since he's not here. My dad, Keith Hankinson, has been in the intervention business since 1975, and in the last 35 years has done well over 3,000 interventions in his lifetime, with an incredible success rate, over 90%. And I think that speaks to his experience and his knowledge, but just also to the power of intervention. When intervention is done right, when it's done in a methodical way, when it's done with families that really understand the process, and we've been able to train with the family, there's nothing more powerful in an addict's life to get them that decision-making point. And basically it all boils down to that yes or no. And that's, it seems like such a simple, just do it. Just, anybody who's outside of the addiction would just, doesn't make any sense not to do it. But it's the hardest decision in the world for the addict to make. And yet it still comes down to they have to make that decision. Well, this is the most powerful, the most loving, the most effective way to get them to say a yes. And oftentimes they don't even have that word available to them. And sometimes we will be their yes. I mean, we've walked arm in arm with people to the car, to the airport, where their knees are shaken and they can't take that step forward. They know they need help. They know they have to quit. But the fear just grips them and makes it so that they are unable to say yes, unable to even walk towards getting in the car or getting on the plane. We're mobile. We go to all 50 states. We've traveled out of the country several times. Those are a little bit trickier, but we've done it. And we work with families in crisis. We respond immediately. I think the longest that we've ever had to respond to a phone call was about 4 hours. And so we pride ourselves on getting back to people very quickly, because we know once they pick up that phone, they're picking up that phone because they're in crisis. Sure. They need help right now. Sure. And oftentimes we drop everything, family plans, vacation plans, to jump on an airplane and head across the country.
You're listening to 1210 AM KPRZ. The voice you hear is that of Shane Hankinson, who is an interventionist, and we're talking about interventions today because we're talking about addictions and recovery with this radio program. So, Shane, how do you prepare the family for an actual intervention? Well,
the typical intervention is a 2-day process. I'll just give you the example of a case I'll be working on soon here. It's a 22-year-old lady who's addicted to OxyContin, and I will be flying out on a Monday. I will meet the family Monday late afternoon, and we will immediately go to the house or a room at a church and begin our training process. And in that training process, first of all, we're talking about how this addiction has affected the person, why intervention works. We're talking about exactly what they're going to say the next day. We're talking about every excuse that we can think of that the person's going to throw at us, why they can't go to treatment that day. We're role-playing. We're looking at all the logistics of, do we walk in the front door? Do we walk in the back door? I've done interventions where we've had to walk into illegal gambling houses and meet somebody in the drive-through. And so we'll talk about all the logistics of the intervention, and then basically have any other questions that they have before we meet the person the next day. So the family is all feeling very confident. Everything that can go wrong, we've kind of explored, and they know what to do in each case, and so they're feeling pretty confident the next day. And then the next day, all they need to do is show up and read their letter that I've helped them to prepare, so that if whatever goes wrong, at least they'll know that they'll get to say what's on their heart, which is the most important thing. And so often when we talk to somebody who we're concerned about, the things that we want to say don't get said because we start to speak from the heart, and then all of a sudden they give us a dirty look or they interrupt us, and then we start speaking from the head, which is far less effective than that heart-to-heart communication.
You're listening to KPRZ. This is Recovery Radio for San Diego.
Shane, I have a question regarding these letters. You have your intervention team. I'm really curious as to the different identifiable roles that you try to establish within the team, and how do they each write their letters, and how do you coach them to write their letters, and what are these letters?
Well, let me talk about two things. First of all, the role of the team. And then I'll talk about the letter. The role of the team is all the people that care about the person and who are affected by his addiction and who would show up at the person's funeral to eulogize them. Those are all good people to have on the team. And the purpose of the team is not just to make a big initial impact, but it's to create a team of people who will be supportive of that person in their continuing recovery. For instance, what will happen is that a person will go into treatment, and a week later they'll call mom and dad and say, I hate it here. The people are rude, and the food's no good, and everybody here is an addict, and I just don't belong here. And mom and dad will, they'll have their heartstrings tugged on, and they'll say, well, maybe, come home, we'll see how it goes. Maybe we'll get you checked into someplace else. And with the intervention team, that decision is not up to mom and dad. And what I tell people is mom and dad, so far it's been like this. The parental authority, the decision-making authority, has been shared equally by the two of you. Represented by a pie chart, you've each had half the pie. But now there's 10 people in this room. And so we're going to cut that pie up into 10 pieces. And now when that addict calls from treatment and says, hey, I want to get out of here, can you buy me a ticket? Dad only has 1/10 of the decision-making power. Mom only has 1/10 of the decision-making power. They have to consult, and they've promised and they've covenanted with the entire team that, hey, since we're investing in this person's recovery, we all need to agree on whether or not what the next move for them is. So really what it does is it creates a higher power in that person's life. It's not just about being able to manipulate mom or dad to send me money so I can get on a bus. It's I have to manipulate that entire team, and that's tough. So the role of the intervention team is not just to make the big initial impact, which is very helpful and very powerful, but it's also to create that accountability team that's going to benefit the person further on in their recovery. Now, do we have time for me to explain the letters?
Oh, please.
Okay. Now, the letters, the reason that we do a letter is so that the people aren't going in there just speaking whatever comes to mind. Because often when you're stressed, when you're nervous, when this person is giving you dirty looks and swearing at you, it's hard to speak loving, graceful, encouraging, truthful words to that person. And that's exactly what they need to hear. And so what I train people is I give them a 4-part letter that I'm very specific in. This is how I want you to write the letter. This is the format for the letter. This is the outline for the letter. The words will be unique to you, of course, and to your situation. But the first thing I want you to talk about is how important this person is to you. And then I want you to talk about how their addiction, how you see their addiction affecting their lives. And then I want you to talk about how their addiction affects your life personally. And then I want you to talk about what you want for them. And I get more specific than that. But basically then they take that letter into the intervention, and no matter how emotional they get, no matter how tense things are, no matter the reaction from the person that we're intervening upon, they are guaranteed that the words that they want to say to their loved one are going to be said. And I've had fathers who, they start reading their letter and they're like, "Son, I'm here because I love you," and they get all choked up and they can't talk anymore. And I say, you know what? That's fine. That's why we wrote the letter. You just take a couple of minutes, you compose yourself, and then you pick up right where you left off. Or, the mom wants to say something, and the son cuts her off. And instead of forgetting what it was that she was going to say, she just has to wait until he's done having his temper tantrum, and then she can pick up right where she left off. And all those powerful heart-to-heart words are preserved and are going to be said. And that's the importance of the letter.